Have you ever wondered, how do we measure success when profit isn't the goal? I mean, think about a hospital, right? Or a school, or even, say, the police. How do we really know if they're doing a good job beyond just, sticking to the budget? Well, today we're doing a deep dive into exactly that. We're looking at this idea called value for money, or VFM, and we're focusing particularly on not-for-profit organizations, including those really vital public sector services. This VFM framework helps us understand if resources are actually being used in the best way possible to get the job done. We're going to unpack the 3 E's: economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. They're sort of the pillars of VFM. And we'll look at how they sometimes clash, which is interesting. Then we'll apply all this to a real case from our sources evaluating the Deeland police using some specific data they provided. So our mission today, to give you a clear way to think about performance beyond just the finances for these essential services, help you spot the nuances, see what really matters, expect some perhaps surprising insights. Okay, so let's jump in. This core idea of value for money and not for profits, it's fundamentally different from a regular business, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. A for-profit company, it's about maximizing shareholder value, right? Profit. But NFPs, they just don't have that bottom line.
But they still need financial discipline.
Of course, yes. You still have to manage budgets, compare spending to what was planned. That's crucial. But the real measure, is how well they use their resources, people, money, time to achieve their main objectives.
Like patient health outcomes for a hospital.
Exactly. Or the quality of learning in a school, not just cost per patient or cost per student.
And that's really why VFM is such a useful framework here. It forces that look beyond just the cost, right, to focus on the benefits being delivered.
Precisely. If there's no profit motive, assessing those benefits, are patients getting better? Are students learning? That becomes absolutely paramount.
Okay, so VFM isn't just code for cut costs.
Not at all. Actually, the UK's National Audit Office has a great definition. They say good VFM is the optimal use of resources to achieve the intended outcomes.
Optimal use.
Right, and they clarify optimal means the most desirable possible given expressed or implied restrictions or constraints. So it's about finding the best way, not just the cheapest way. It's about balance.
Okay, that makes sense. Optimal implies judgment, trade-offs maybe. So to understand that, we really need to break down these 3 E's: economy, efficiency, effectiveness. They're the core, you said.
They absolutely are. Let's start with economy.
Okay.
This is about getting the resources you need, the inputs of the right quantity and quality, but at the lowest possible cost.
So optimizing inputs, like buying smart.
Exactly. Buying smart. Are you getting good value for the money you spend on staff, buildings, supplies, whatever it is?
So the example you mentioned earlier, a police force using, say, cheaper admin staff for tasks officers used to do, that's aiming for economy.
Precisely. If they can do the job effectively for less cost, that's an economy measure.
Got it. Okay, so that's economy. What's the second E?
The second is efficiency. This is about the relationship between inputs and outputs. Are you maximizing the output you get from the resources you use?
So optimizing the process.
Yes. How well are you converting inputs into outputs? It's often measured things like cost per unit of output or maybe cost per person served.
Okay, like the school example. 2 schools, same number of teachers.
Right. But one school teaches twice as many students. That first school looks more efficient, lower staff cost per pupil.
But, and this seems key, does that efficiency come at a cost? Does the quality drop?
You've hit on the tension. Which brings us perfectly to the third E, effectiveness.
Yeah.
Effectiveness looks at the relationship between the organization's intended results, its objectives, and what it actually achieved. Did it work? Did it meet its goals?
So for the schools, it's not just cost per pupil, but are the kids actually learning? Are the exam results good?
Exactly. Is the teaching effective? For a police force, are they actually reducing crime rates? Are they catching criminals as planned? How well are they hitting their targets?
Right. And this is where you said it gets complicated. The balancing act. These 3 E's, they don't always pull in the same direction, do they?
Not at all. That's the core challenge, really. Achieving a good balance is difficult because aiming for one might hurt another.
Like the school example again. Bigger classes might look more efficient.
Lower cost per pupil, yes.
But if learning suffers, then effectiveness goes down.
Precisely. You've improved efficiency, maybe economy too, but potentially damaged the primary mission effective education.
And you see this reflected in the news sometimes. Discussions about public services.
Absolutely. Often the focus is very heavily on, say, budget cuts or cost savings. Economy and efficiency are highlighted.
But the impact on effectiveness, on the actual service quality might be less discussed or harder to measure immediately.
And that's the danger. The VFM framework is powerful because it insists you look at all three. Just chasing cost savings, just focusing on efficiency metrics can be really damaging if it undermines the whole point of the service.
It's about the overall value, not just one piece. And I think you mentioned there's sometimes a fourth E, equity.
Yes, that's increasingly part of the conversation. Equity. It asks, are the services actually available to and reaching everyone they're intended for?
So access and fairness.
Pretty much. Are the benefits distributed fairly? Think about an advice service. Maybe it's run very efficiently.
Okay.
But if it's only offered in a language that some of the local community don't speak, then those people can't benefit. It lacks equity, even if it's efficient for those who can access it.
That adds another important layer. Okay, so we've got the tools: economy, efficiency, effectiveness, and maybe equity. Let's put them to work. This Deeland police case study you mentioned sounds like a perfect test. A new minister wants improvements, and their mission is clear: protect the community and prevent crime while providing a value for money service.
Right. And they have these specific goals, these critical success factors, or CSFs.
Okay, what are they?
1, better protection for those at risk. 2, get better at catching criminals. 3, reduce crime causes through community involvement. And 4, a new task force for virtual crime.
Got it. So let's look at the data from 20x3 to 20x5. How does Deeland Police stack up on economy?
Well, it's interesting. Overall costs went up slightly, about $2,203 million to $2,248 million.
Okay, not down then.
But wait, staff costs, the biggest chunk actually fell from $2,141 million down to $2,026 million.
How did they manage that if overall costs went up?
Well, the number of police officers went down slightly, from 38,400 to 37,930, but the number of administrative staff went up from 12,075 to 12,320.
So they shifted the mix. Fewer expensive officers, more or less expensive admin staff.
Seems like it. And look at this. The average cost per employee fell quite a bit, from over $42,000 down to about $40,300.
So from an economy perspective, that looks potentially positive. They're lowering the cost of their personnel input, maybe freeing up officers from admin tasks.
Potentially, yes. That's the economy argument. But then you have to ask.
What about efficiency? Did those changes make them more efficient operationally?
Here, the picture gets cloudier. On one hand, the number of people served per police officer went up slightly, more citizens per cop.
Which could suggest more efficiency, fewer officers covering more ground?
Could. But other key metrics went the wrong way. Crimes solved per police officer actually fell a bit.
Oh.
And crimes solved per employee, including the admin staff, also fell.
So fewer crimes solved per person working there, even with the staff changes.
Seems so. And their response time slipped too. The percentage of incidents they responded to within the target time fell from 87% to 84%.
Okay, that doesn't sound good. So the economy gains from changing the staff mix might be, well, they don't seem to be translating into better operational efficiency. In fact, maybe the opposite.
It certainly raises that question, are they less efficient at doing core police work now? Which leads us directly to effectiveness.
Right. Are they actually achieving their goals? Those CSFs. Let's take CSF 1. Greater protection for those at risk. How did they do there?
Not well. According to this data, the number of violent crimes actually increased over the period.
Increased. Wow.
Yeah, from about 104,000 to over 108,000. And violent crimes per 1,000 people also went up. So definitely less effective on that front.
Okay. What about CSF 2? Be better at catching criminals. That seems pretty fundamental.
Also negative, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
The total number of crimes reported went up, but the number of crimes they actually solved went down.
Up on reported crime, down on solved crime. That means
the clear-up rate, the percentage of reported crimes they solved, fell significantly, from 58.4% down to 55.0%.
So less effective at catching criminals too. This isn't looking good.
No, it's not. And CSF3, reducing the causes of crime, prevention angle.
Well, if total reported crimes are increasing.
Exactly. That suggests they're becoming less effective at prevention too, not more.
And the virtual crime task force, CSF4.
The data we have here doesn't let us assess that one, unfortunately.
Okay. But for the three main operational goals we can measure, economy went up in terms of cost per employee, but efficiency seems down on key metrics, and effectiveness looks like it clearly declined across the board.
That's the picture the data paints, yes. It seems the drive for economy, primarily through changing the staff mix and reducing overall staff costs, may have had a significant negative impact on both how efficiently they operate and crucially, how effective they are at their core mission.
Wow. So Deeland Police is a really stark example of these VFM principles in action, or maybe inaction. It shows how focusing too much on one E, like economy, can really undermine the others, especially effectiveness. And at the end of the day, if a police force isn't effective at protecting people and catching criminals, no matter how economical it looks on paper,
It's failing its primary objective.
exactly. It highlights that organizations, especially public services, can't afford to lose sight of their main goals just to save money. And this has huge implications, right, for governments, for anyone funding these services.
Right.
You can't just demand cuts or efficiency savings without considering the potential impact on effectiveness.
Absolutely. There's a real danger in focusing too narrowly on cost or process metrics. You might save money in the short term, but if the service itself degrades, what's the real cost then? Who pays?
So the real challenge, the true goal of VFM is finding that difficult balance, managing all three E's together.
That's it, precisely. Being effective first and foremost, but doing it in a way that is also as economic and efficient as reasonably possible. It's a constant strategic juggling act.
So just to recap, we've explored this vital concept of value for money. We've unpacked the three: economy, efficiency, effectiveness, seen how they interact, sometimes conflict,
And how crucial that balance is.
especially for public services. Using the Deeland police case, we saw a clear example of what can happen when that balance is perhaps lost. Which leaves us with a final thought, something for you to chew on. If focusing hard on economy and efficiency makes a police force less effective, less able to protect people, less able to catch criminals, what's the real cost of those savings? The hidden cost to the community? And thinking more broadly about the services you rely on, which seems like the hardest one for organizations to get right, and why do you think that is?